The land of the free is almost synonymous with capitalism. In the East, New York City stands as the financial center of the world, where anyone can rise from rags to riches. On the opposite coast, Silicon Valley gathers tech giants, shaping the future. Yet less than 200 years ago, America was filled with utopias and societal experiments, each claiming to have found the blueprint for a perfect society. One such utopia was Brook Farm, an ambitious experiment intended as a model for the world. Its founder, George Ripley, envisioned a community that provided industry without drudgery and true equality without its vulgarity. This is the story of an American utopia that was destined to fail. By the late 1820s, transcendentalism was on the rise in New England. It offered a refreshing contrast to the intellectualism and spirituality of the time. Its core belief held that man and nature were inherently good, but had been corrupted by societal institutions. By fostering self-reliance and independence, transcendentalists believed humanity could return to its pure state. As one of America's first major philosophical movements, transcendentalism captivated countless individuals, including George Ripley. Born in Greenfield, Massachusetts, Ripley studied at Harvard University, graduating from the Harvard Divinity School before becoming a minister at Boston's Purchase Street Church in 1826. However, Ripley was no ordinary minister. As a Unitarian, he taught that God was singular, and that Jesus, though inspired by God's teachings, was not equal to him. This view clashed with the traditional Trinitarian beliefs, sparking controversy. After a decade in the ministry, this ideological tension reached a breaking point. During the Panic of 1837, the Unitarian Church urged Ripley to avoid controversial topics. But Ripley, unwavering in his belief in free expression, refused, stating, "Unless a minister is expected to speak out on all subjects which are uppermost in his mind, with no fear of incurring the charge of heresy or compromising the interests of his congregation, he can never do justice to himself, to his people, or the truth which he is bound to declare." And although he offered his resignation, he remained for 3 more years until, in a 7,300-word lecture, he publicly severed ties with the church to fully devote himself to transcendental ideals. Ripley then went on to work for The Dial, a transcendentalist newspaper. But he wasn't just satisfied with words, he wanted action, and in 1841 he resigned and set out to create his utopian experiment. So Ripley and his wife Sophia formed a joint stock company with 10 investors. Shares sold for $500 each, and they promised shareholders a 5% annual return with a single vote in decision-making. The experiment would begin on a dairy farm in West Roxbury, Massachusetts. But first, they needed to buy the farm for $10,000. By October 1841, the funds were secured, and they purchased 170 acres, described as a place of great natural beauty, combining a convenient nearness to the city with a degree of retirement and freedom from unfavorable influences, unusual even in the country. They named it Brook Farm after a small brook running into the Charles River. Initially, only 10 investors participated, but their numbers quickly grew to 32. Brook farmers exchanged 300 days of labor per year for either 5% of annual profits or free room, board, and tuition for one student. Members chose work that suited them best, and all, including women, received equal pay. Ripley's philosophy emphasized blending intellectual and manual labor. The experiment was underway. However, problems arose quickly. Without assigned roles, essential tasks went undone, and there was no system to ensure fair contributions. To address this, the community introduced work standards. In summer, they would have 10-hour workdays, and in winter, they would work 8 hours. Work was divided into 3 categories: agriculture, mechanics, and domestic tasks. Each category had a chief to oversee productivity. Tasks included chopping wood, milking cows, shoemaking, and teaching. Despite occasional conflicts, particularly between educators who saw themselves as a kind of aristocrat, Brook Farm ran smoothly. In fact, it was going so well for them that in 1844, they even turned a small profit. But, despite their success, the farm was in debt from the start. Poor conditions and labor shortages made farming difficult. The farm's primary export, hay, sold at low prices, while vegetables and fruits failed to generate profit. As Brook Farm became more structured and work-oriented, it strayed from the ideal of leisurely, self-directed labor. Dissatisfied, some members began to leave. By October 1844, financial strain forced sacrifices. Meat, coffee, tea, and butter were removed from communal meals. A separate table provided them, for a fee, marking the first division in what had been an egalitarian community. But then an even greater disaster struck. A smallpox outbreak decimated productivity. Though no one died, the community really struggled to recover. Ripley desperately negotiated with creditors, managing to cancel $7,000 in debt, but the situation remained dire. The final blow came in March 1846. A fire destroyed an uninsured building, costing thousands of dollars. 2 months later, Ripley abandoned the project. Brook Farm was left with $17,745 of debt, equivalent to nearly $750,000 today. Though Brook Farm was ahead of its time in many ways, it was doomed from the start. Poor organization, financial misfortune, and unrealistic ideals sealed its fate. Yet, despite its failure, Brook Farm remains a symbol of American idealism and unity, proof of the enduring human pursuit of a better world.